this is where the story gets complicated now.
Yes.
Because I know right after he died, when did you put up the GoFundMe, or was it you that put up the GoFundMe?
The GoFundMe thing is complicated. So I originally didn't want to put a GoFundMe up because I knew there was going to be some backlash and I knew there was going to be some issues there. His nephew, Louie Rankin, was being very supportive and was being there for me and the kids. And we had talked about it. And a couple of his other nieces and nephews had messaged me and contacted me. And they all said they thought it was a good idea and that I should put it out. And a couple of his siblings had said the same thing as well. And I didn't really want to put it out at first, but to be honest, there wasn't really any funds to pay for a funeral. Any money that we had in the savings, because this obviously wasn't an expected thing, had gone into his album. Okay. And there wasn't a lot of savings to begin with. You know, we had our expenses for cars and bills and things like that. So there wasn't a lot of savings. And unfortunately, he had lapsed on paying his life insurance policy. So there wasn't life insurance to cover that. And his car insurance did pay for some things, but at the same time, they didn't pay for a lot because he was driving with a suspended license. So that kind of takes away from a lot of the income. So the GoFundMe was, originally it was to help pay for funeral costs, and then a few people said, well, you should put something in there for the kids too, so that you could have something for the future. But then it became complicated because there was a lot of issues with the money and family and things like that. So it got to the point where I just needed to take it down. And I just used what I got from it to pay for his funeral.
Yeah. Okay, so then this is because, again, a lot of people see Louie Rankin, Ox, Teddy Bruckshot, this man we've seen in movies, Love for Years, Typewriter Song, and all of this. We figure, okay, you're set. You have your money. But I seen that the only statement that I actually seen you put up was something on your Instagram where you were telling them something about the fact that most of his money was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
And a lot of the money he had given away to people helping them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You finished the statement and
it
tell me
wasn't
what it
on my Instagram, actually. It was, I commented on a post that someone else put up. And I had not commented on anything. I had stayed away from a lot of it. And to be honest with you, it came after Foot to Hype had put out a video. He had put out a video talking about how I should have my children taken away, and I was taking away from his image, and that I was making him look bad. And there was some racist comments about the fact that I was a white woman and this is what white women do to black men. And there was a lot of other people that made comments, but it didn't really bother me until that comment about how my children should be taken away because of what I was doing to his image. So it was the fact that people were saying, oh, well, she's just a gold digger and she's just trying to look for money. And it was people that really didn't understand the situation. So that's when I came along, and I didn't diss anybody. I didn't disrespect anybody. I just basically said, well, listen, the man was still married at the time of his accident. So legally, his wife is entitled to any assets or anything that he has. And unfortunately, there wasn't even a lot of assets. He didn't really have any residuals coming in from any of his work from the 90s. He did make most of his money in the 90s. While we were together, I probably helped him make around $250,000 across 6 years, but that's not a lot of money. It doesn't go very far when you have a lot of expenses. And part of my job was to maintain an image for him. So what you see on social media and what you saw on his Instagram doesn't necessarily gravitate to real life. It wasn't, he may come across on social media like, oh, he has all these cars and he has all this and that. Most of those cars, like most celebrities, are rentals or promo vehicles, and the clothing were given to them because he's doing promo for certain stores. Yeah. So people just assumed that he had a lot more than he did. And they were under the assumption that me putting the GoFundMe out there was for me to get money out of it. A lot of people don't know that I was never paid for any of the work I did for him. I did it all without expecting to be paid. I never asked to be paid. It wasn't something that I said, hey, you have to pay me. Yeah. We did have a contract that said I was getting paid 20%. Yeah. But when it came down to the money was paid, he would give me money here, he'd give me money there, or he would pay, the rent for the month. Like, we didn't own a home, we rented. So it's not like we had, equity or assets in a home. So, and we had groceries and bills and car payments and kids to take care of, and he was completely funding his album on his own with my help. So there wasn't any money to go around, and his family didn't really have any money to put into it either. So there really wasn't much of an option because there was no income anywhere for anyone to come up and go to a funeral and be like, hey, here's $50,000, let's bury him properly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that he did get the send-off that he deserved, but I had to find a way to get the funds to do that. And I did have the support of his family in the beginning, and most of his family still have been supportive and been there for me, but there was a few family members that had some backlash, and it wasn't until, the GoFundMe reached about $10,000 that they started to really come at me. And it was, only a couple of people in the family that really gave me issues, but I had one person in particular that was threatening me and telling me that I wasn't allowed to come to the funeral and that I should take the money out in cash and give it to them directly. And then I said, well, no, I'm going to pay the funeral home directly. And that's when they said, you can keep it. And some pretty derogatory terms thrown at me. And it was pretty stressful on my part. So
because you're dealing with the death of your business partner, your common-law husband, the father of your children, and the artist all at the exact same time. And it's like, who you think would be in your corner isn't. That's why I was saying, like, okay, celebrity friends, especially when they see the GoFundMe, you would figure that, okay, they'd say, let's protect this image and let's put together $50,000, or whatever the case is, to give him a good send-off. But none of that really happened.
No. There was only one celebrity that really put money into the GoFundMe, and I'm not going to name names because they've asked to remain anonymous, but there was really only one celebrity that stepped up and helped out. The rest, there was a few that would post it, that would post it on their media and stuff like that to help it. And, Specs was very helpful in supporting the GoFundMe and talking about it on social media and on the radio. And there was a lot of people that were supporting it, but not as many people as I thought that would have funded towards it and helped with the situation. And I see how they were with other celebrities that passed away and how much they put into it. And then I see how he passed away and how all these celebrities came out and put all their condolences and rest in peace and can't believe he's gone, but didn't put the effort into his passing as they did to other celebrities. Yeah. So it was kind of difficult for me because it was like, okay, so where were they all when he was alive and was trying to get help for his album and trying to get help for his movies and his careers? And there was only a few that really stepped up and assisted him, and then all of a sudden he passes away and all these artists are coming out and be like, oh, rest in peace and we miss you and can't believe it happened. And to me, it was like, well, where were you when he was reaching out to you when he was alive? Yeah. It's like, look at his Instagram. He went from 65,000 followers to 120,000 followers within weeks of his passing.
This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinedmusica.com.